For this part of the project, I created a sample lesson plan that I could use in a flipped classroom for my anatomy and physiology class. It focuses on the skeletal system unit. So to begin with, we would introduce the skeletal system. The students take a pre-assessment in class to find out what they already know about the skeletal system. They try to name as many of the bones as they can on a blank skeleton, and then we go over those answers together. That would stay the same. We already do that in a regular classroom setting, so that would be normal activities. Also, they work together on a crossword puzzle that has clues about bones of the human body and answers multiple choice questions, so those things would stay the same. The flipped portion would be that they would then go home and watch a YouTube video that gives an introduction of the skeletal system. So I will go to that video. So this is not a video that I created, but it was one that I found, and I feel it's a good study tool for them to use later on in the lesson, and will also help them just become introduced to the skeletal system. Following that lesson, we could then move on to the axial skeleton in class. So first, students would be required to watch a video that introduces them to the bones of the axial skeleton. Again, this is a video that I found that I feel is a useful tool for them. So this just gives them, again, another introduction to the axial skeleton before we discuss it further in class. So in the classroom, they would then have diagrams where they can begin to label the axial skeleton on their own. They could use their textbooks, computers, work together, but they would fill the diagrams out to the best of their ability without me giving them any prior instruction. Then at home, they would go home and watch a more detailed version of the skull, particularly. We split up the axial skeleton into different regions. And so they would then be able to check their answers of their skull diagrams and then come to class um, being more familiar with the material. Then on day two, the students would work in stations to practice learning those bones of the skull. We split up into three separate stations, one with the students on computers where they can do online quizzes, also students using models, the skeleton models or the models of the skulls to identify with a partner, and then also just practicing on the blank skull diagram so that they can learn the different bones of the skull. Then at home I have another video over bones of the skull that they could also use to help them, or they could refer back to the previous video if they found that that was more helpful. And then the next day in class would be another day of practicing the bones, kind of repetition. But I felt like this would be a good point of differentiation for some students. If on this third day of practicing they felt that they were ready to assess their knowledge on the skull and they felt that they didn't need any more practice, they could decide to take the quiz that day instead. So they could take the quiz early and then move on to the next set of bones on their own. So this would kind of help those learners that were excelling faster than the others to kind of move ahead. But if there were some students that were still wanting more practice, they could stay with the normal schedule and just continue to practice that day and quiz the following day. Most of the lessons on the skeletal system would follow the same type of format. I could add in some extra activities if there was something specific for that particular set of bones. But most of it would follow the procedure of the students watching a video to introduce them, coming in, identifying things on their own, going home, checking their answers through another video, and then coming back to master the content and practice it with their partners. And then if they need be, they can move ahead in certain areas if they want. I still plan on uploading handouts and assignments to the student as well, so I could upload the diagrams that I would hand them out. So then if they wanted to print those off at home, if they are absent, they could do that so they could stay on track with the rest of the students, or they could even print off those documents as an extra practice sheet at home to prepare for the quiz. So I still plan on uploading those assignments. So I will conclude this presentation with my reflection on the experience. Overall, I thought that I learned a lot about the flipped classroom experience, and I feel that I'm more prepared to introduce it to my class. In the beginning, it seemed a little bit overwhelming, especially as a new teacher. And even when I first heard about the idea of a flipped classroom, I thought it seemed a little ridiculous. But the more that I found out about it, I see that it is a good method to use in particular classrooms, and maybe eventually all classrooms will be able to utilize it. Right now, I feel like it's best in my anatomy and physio class. I'll probably continue to teach my practical biology in the traditional way, but maybe once I get a handle on my anatomy and physio class and I see that the students are benefiting from it, I could eventually work to also incorporate it into my practical biology classes. Some of the best concepts or the most helpful points that I found through my research is one that the flipped classroom is helpful for students that have frequent absences. They can still get the materials, get the lectures, even from home. Also, if I'm absent, I can have a substitute show a lecture, or the students can continue their in-class activities, so it keeps everybody on track. Also, I thought that the flipped classroom was a good way to show information in multiple different ways, or multiple ways. I could create my own lectures. I can find lectures online from other professors. I could get lectures from other teachers in my school that I could share with the students. So they're getting content in many different formats. So even though it's still the lecture format, they can hear it from different perspectives as well. And also, of course, they get more hands-on opportunities in the classroom because we freed up time by them observing the lectures at home. And then finally, I like that students can learn at their own pace. If students are excelling, they don't have to wait for the slower learners. They can go ahead and move ahead. But the people that need extra time can still stay on track by following their goals and meeting those goals and being assessed at the appropriate time. So it allows all learners to move at their own pace and allows for some differentiation. I will definitely be incorporating this next year. I kind of want to start fresh with the new school year, so over the summer I plan on creating even more lesson plans to take part for the whole school year. I think it's going to be especially beneficial for my students because my class is set up that in the first semester we go over a lot of the content and material, and then in the second semester they put that content to use by doing the cat dissection. I think it will be helpful having the flip setting because instead of covering all that material in the first semester and then the students possibly forgetting it when it's time for them to actually put it to use, they can now refer back to the videos and then come to class ready for the laboratory. They can refresh their memories the night before, and then they'll remember where certain structures are, how certain structures function, when it's time for them to do the dissection or have a lab practice. So I think it will be especially beneficial in my classroom, and I'm excited to implement it.